What if there was a door in your house that no one ever told you about? A door that had been locked for decades. A door that shouldn't exist. Thomas and his family were about to learn that some doors are better left unopened. Thomas was a young father who wanted nothing more than a fresh start for his family. When he moved them into the old countryside house, it felt like a dream come true. The ceiling stretched high, the wooden floors glistened, and the garden seemed endless. His children laughed as they ran across the yard, and his wife, Clara, finally smiled with relief that they had found a place to call their own. But before the caretaker handed Thomas the keys, he pulled him aside and whispered, "Do not go into the east wing. Lock it. Forget it exists." His words were sharp, trembling with a warning that seemed heavier than simple advice. Thomas had laughed it off at the time. "Why? What's in there?" The caretaker's face went pale. "Some doors are better left unopened." And then he turned, refusing to say another word. For weeks, Thomas tried to ignore that hallway. Life filled the house, and the sound of his children's laughter echoed through its walls. But there was something about the east wing that unsettled him. At night, when the wind was still, faint whispers seemed to bleed from behind the locked door. Sometimes Emma, his daughter, swore she saw shadows move across the bottom crack. Clara admitted that whenever she passed by, she felt a sudden chill run through her spine. Thomas brushed it all off with a smile. Old houses creak. It's nothing more. But deep inside, his curiosity grew heavier with each passing night. One stormy evening, as thunder rattled the windows, Thomas discovered an old iron key hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. It was black, heavy, coated in dust. As soon as his fingers wrapped around it, he knew where it belonged. He should have thrown it into the fire. He should have walked away. But temptation is a dangerous thing. That night, when his wife and children were fast asleep, Thomas crept down the long hallway, lightning flashing through the windows as though the sky itself tried to warn him. His heart thudded as he slid the iron key into the lock. The door groaned open, echoing through the house. Inside, the air was cold and stale, like the breath of something long dead. Dust hung heavy in the stillness, and cobwebs lined the corners like skeletal lace. At the center of the room stood a simple wooden chair, and upon it rested a box draped in cobwebs. Thomas stepped closer, each step feeling heavier than the last. The box was carved with symbols he did not recognize, strange patterns that seemed to shift under the flickering light of his lantern. On top of the box lay a note, faded with age. In jagged handwriting, it read, "Do not open." Ever. Thomas's breath caught in his throat. His instinct screamed to leave, to shut the door and never return. But the whispers began again, curling around him, urging him to look. His trembling hands brushed the dust from the lid. And then he opened the box. Inside was no treasure, no hidden relic, no riches of forgotten times. Inside was a letter, yellowed and fragile. He lifted it with shaking fingers and read the words written inside. "To the one who finds this, the house is cursed. Every family who lives here will pay the price. Leave now. Take nothing with you. Do not stay the night once this box is opened. If you remain, the house will take one of you by dawn." The letter slipped from his fingers. Behind him, the door slammed shut with a deafening crack. Thomas bolted from the room, his chest pounding, and ran back to his family. Clara saw his pale face and gripped his arm. "What's wrong?" she asked, fear trembling in her voice. But Thomas could not answer. He only held her hand tighter, praying that the words on that letter were just the ramblings of a madman. But that night, the house awoke. The whispers turned to voices chanting in the dark. The walls groaned as if something moved behind them. Shadows stretched across the ceilings, bending in unnatural shapes. Emma screamed in her sleep, thrashing against unseen hands, and little Samuel cried out as though something pulled at him. Thomas tried to calm them, tried to fight back the terror clawing at his chest, but the clock struck midnight, and silence fell. At dawn, Thomas stumbled into his daughter's room. The sheets were cold, the window stood open, though no one had touched it. Outside, the garden lay still, dew unbroken, no footprints in the grass. Emma was gone. They searched every room, every hall, the attic, the cellar, the garden, the nearby woods. But she had vanished without a trace. The house had taken its price. By morning, Thomas and Clara gathered what they could and fled, leaving the house to its shadows. They never returned. The east wing remained locked, the whispers waiting patiently for the next family, the next curious soul, the next one who thought warnings were only words. Years later, when the house was finally torn down, Thomas stood at the empty lot, staring into the emptiness. The house was gone, but when the wind blew, he swore he could still hear the whispers calling his name. He carried that regret for the rest of his life. Some warnings are not meant to be ignored. Some doors should never be opened. Thomas believed curiosity was harmless, but curiosity consumed him. One moment of temptation, one choice to ignore the warning, and his family paid the ultimate price. Remember, in life there are moments you cannot get back. There are doors you cannot close once you've opened them. And sometimes the things we leave untouched are the very things that keep us safe. Because once the door is opened, it can never be closed again.